Yeah, it's just, different people are at different levels. If I told you to play football for 2.5 hours, you'd do that. You have to look at your reality. How selfless have you been? So for the 5 times salawat, it's not always about what I'll get out of it, although you do get things out of it. It's about that you glorify Allah. And then you say, well, the charity, giving the charity in Islam. I've given this wealth, and, I gave 50 pounds, or I gave this, or I gave that, and subhanAllah, I hope I don't go overdrawn, I hope this doesn't happen, I hope my overdraft is able to bear it, I hope this, I hope that. But listen, always remember what the Prophet ﷺ said. He said, if one of you does one good deed, intends one good deed for Allah, then he carries through and he does it. He gets that written down as from 10 to 700 rewards with Allah, or double that. So you have the case of Omar, in which he gave a gift, and another man gave a gift back to him of 10. Some say apples, some say another fruit. But the companion was bringing it back to him, and he felt hungry because it was a long journey, so he ate one of them. When he came to Omar, and he shook the bag out, and it was only 9 of that fruit. And Omar said, where's the other one? He said, other what? He said, I know there's got to be 10 here. He said, because I gave one gift, and I know that I'm going to get 10 back. So he remembered, oh yes, I ate one. So reward will come back to you. But you have to act outside of what you expect. Why should I help so-and-so with his groceries or across the street? It's got nothing to do with me. That's his problem. He needs to go to the gym if he can't sort himself out. It's not my problem. But if that woman, Mrs. Carter, was 36, 24, 36, and looked like she was on the front of one of these Sports Illustrated covers, you'd be stumbling over yourself. Almost break your own neck to help her get inside of her house. And that is a disease that you must resist. You must learn to be selfless. Selfless means to do things without always expecting a reward back. The people that put the Quran under one cover and gave it a leather bounding and all these other things, they were not saying, in 2010 years from now, there will be Muslims in England who will crack open this Mus'haf and they'll read it. The direction was to take it that way, but they weren't looking for a return. Why should we put a leather cover on the Quran? So those people have nothing to do with us. No. They were looking ahead. Az-Zubair ibn Al-Awwam was selfless, and then he did another thing. He did not hesitate to dedicate himself. So any job he started, he finished. So how many people in here have we said, well, I'm going to go to college, do my 2 years, then we stop. So okay, I'm going to do this for a little while. Do some capping. Do that for a little while, set some goals, don't do them. So okay, I'm going to head back to college. Go back to college, start doing, say, you know what, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do this now. You go to New College, Nottingham, a couple of years, don't get it done. So you've got all this stuff that you've done in life, none of which you finished. So if you write down on a CV and someone actually looks at it in an interview, well, it says that you wanted to do a whole lot of different things. And you got a third of the way or halfway and never finished it. Oh yes, we want to hire you for a high-flying corporate business job. No. Why? Because you've shown that you as a person are fickle. You have no loyalty. You don't finish the things that you start. How many of our young people, and we have to say it, we sometimes get upset and we say, oh, the older guys, they don't respect us, and the bazooka this and the bazooka that. But it's only because some of them see these young fellows, they don't get anything done. They came here, built up what we're now sitting in, talking on microphones on, built it. And we have to prove to them that we should be the ones that they should pass the baton to continue the work. How can we be upset with them? They busted their hide, came here in the 60s, braved all the stuff that we went through racism, got their windows put in, got chased down the street with hatchets and axes and all this other stuff. And then we've come and said, yeah, man, those guys are racist. You haven't even been through half of what they went through. The guys are racist, man. You don't want to put into the effort they did. And so here they are in the twilight years of their life, looking at a bunch of young people living off their legacy, not getting any of the stuff done that they put down and built, and expecting them to respect the young people. They don't owe you any respect if you don't get anything done. And that's going to continue to be the case until you prove yourself. Now, we spent 20 years wasting the time of some of our elder members, so now it's time for us to give back. And so Az-Zubair, when he was 15, 16, he was showing Abu Bakr, the Prophet ﷺ, and everyone else that I am a man of my word. He went to Ethiopia, came back, went to Mecca, from Mecca to Medina, kept his word. Kept his word. Even years later, 20 years later, he's in the battle, he sees Talha, and he remembers the words of the Prophet ﷺ, and he backs up, he drops his weapons. That's being consistent. That's being dedicated. That's a problem some of our young people have. If you ask some of our young people, they have more gap years in their studies than college students and university people do. Because they've been going here and floating there and floating here. And I have to deal with their parents saying, what's wrong with my son? And my reply is, well, he's just lazy. There's not anything that do you think he's depressed? Do you think he may be bipolar? No, boy's just lazy. He's got no issues with him. There's no medication he needs to take other than the anti-lazy medication. That's it. And so from Az-Zubair ibn Al-Awwam's example, you have to take dedication. Another example that you should take from Az-Zubair ibn Al-Awwam is dedication towards his wife. We see the example towards Asma bint Abi Bakr, in which he said it would have been better for you to take the ride rather than spilling the water and having all these problems. Sometimes we as believers, we put a lot of responsibilities on our wives. And they can't always bear all of them. But we still expect them to bear all of it. And that's not right. To be like Az-Zubair ibn Al-Awwam means that you try to make things easier for your children and for your wife. And so by wanting to make things easier for his wife, he wanted his wife to take the ride because she would have been able to rest the pail in between her two arms and to just rest and just sit on the camel and ride back. Often we put too much trial, too much weight on our wives. And then we get angry when it's not all done. They have to do this, they have to do that, have to do this, have to do that. And when I get in, food should be piping hot and fresh and everything else. You put too much weight. And then what happens is you get into battles when you get home. And you're thinking, what's going on here? And then they come to me and say, you don't know what's wrong. I get home, my wife's answering me back. I'm talking to her and doing this. I don't know what's wrong with her. Astaghfirullah. We need to remind her of the hadith. Well, the Prophet ﷺ, he told us, if I was ever to order one human being to bow down to another, it would have been the wife to bow down to her husband, because the right that he has on her. And this hadith is authentic, and it's in these collections. So, yeah, that's true. That's true. But there's another hadith as well that comes just after that in the same musnad that says, oh, husbands with your wives, don't beat them, don't raise your voice to them in public and humiliate them, don't give them ugly titles, don't do this. Yeah, but that hadith, there's some dispute about that. There's some dispute about this. So we have to ask ourselves and look at the situation of how easy you make things for those around you. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said that give glad tidings, don't push people away, make things easy, don't make things hard. When you make things hard on someone, they may have a strong personality and be patient, but eventually they're going to go against you. And so Az-Zubair ibn Al-Awwam, he made things easy for his wife. The next thing, and it's the final point I want to mention about Az-Zubair ibn Al-Awwam, is friendship. Is friendship. Brotherhood and friendship is so important in Islam. You hear the old maxim stated, blood is thicker than water. You say, yes, but faith is greater than blood. Brotherhood cannot be stated enough to be important. We have to realize that there are people in our family, this ummah, that have Asian faces, some who are Arabs, some who